Hello everyone and welcome to the session for element of costing. Today we're going to discuss about labor cost and overhead. This is one of the key chapter for element of costing, and we're going to explain how does it work, the labor cost and the overheads, and after that we're going to practice few exercise and hopefully we'll understand about the labor cost and the overheads. So let's have a look the chapter overview, what we have in the chapter overview. In the chapter overview, we can see we have a few method. So method of remuneration. Remuneration sometimes we can call the salary is the same thing. So method of remuneration. So method of remuneration or method of salary or payment system, kind of the same thing. So the first one we have time-based system. So time-based system, basic amount is paid per hour work. So that means if I work I will get paid, if I don't work I don't get paid. For example, if my per hour rate is £10, so if I work 1 hour then I'll multiply by 10, so that will be £10. If I work 2 hour, that will be 10 times 2, that will be 20 hour. So more I work I get more paid. The next one we have here, piece work scheme. The piecework scheme is not the hour base, is based on how many unit you can produce. Let's say for example, every unit I produce, for 1 unit I get £1. So if I can produce 1 unit I get £1. If I get 2 unit I get £2. If I can make 3 unit I can get £3. If I can make 4 unit I'll get £4. So every unit I can produce I'll get £1 for that. So piecework system doesn't consider the time, so how long it takes doesn't matter. If you can produce 5 unit in 1 hour you will get £5. If you can make only 1 unit in a whole hour you will get only £1. So it doesn't matter how long it takes for you, but the main consideration is how many units or how many product you have produced. So the piecework system count the unit, not the time. On the other hand, the time-based system is only count the time. If you are with the time-based system, doesn't matter how many unit you produce. If you work 5 hours you'll get paid for 5 hours. So that's it. The next one we have incentive scheme. This one basically kind of the bonus scheme that given to the employee to encourage to increase their output. For example, they said your normal hour is £5 per hour, but if you can fulfill the target you will get 10% bonus. And let's say they put the target like 100 units a day. So if you can touch the or exceed the target you will get 10% incentive, so that all the employee they feel motivated, they feel encouraged to reach the target, and they will get some additional remuneration from the company. So we have a time-based system that is only consider the hour. We have a piecework scheme that is only consider how many unit we can produce, and we have an incentive scheme. This one basically encourage employee so that they can do more, they can produce more unit. The next one we have here that is called accounting for the labor cost. So the labor cost, we have a direct cost and we have an indirect cost. Now the direct cost is all about when I can allocate the cost directly into the product. So directly allocated, and this one indirectly allocated. When something is indirect cost we called it overhead. So if something is indirect cost we also called it overhead. For example, let's say if this is a unit, let's say this is a pen, and if this is a pen, all the plastic we have used here to make this pen, this is my direct material. The person who make this pen just to use some hour, just to spend some hour to make this pen, this is my direct labor hour, and that's my direct cost. But on the other hand, the person who was, for example, involving with the admin cost, with the accounts, with the marketing, so this labor cost is not directly allocated inside of the product. So I cannot see how much is marketing inside of the product. I cannot see how much is the selling and admin inside of the product. So this is indirect labor cost, and that will be the overhead. So this is the difference between the direct and the indirect. Direct labor cost, the person who actually spend his time to make the unit. Alright, so this is the basic explanation of this method of remuneration and accounting for the labor cost. Let's have a look what else we have. Let's have a look some exercise activities. So the first activity we have here is says a normal time and overtime 1. So you have a normal time and the overtime. So overtime, we understand if I work more than my normal hours, this is called overtime. For example, if I just only work 8 hours a day, so this is my normal routine, 8 hours a day. So if any day if I work more than 8 hours, for example, if I work 10 hours in one day, so 2 hours is the difference I work, this is called overtime. And normally overtime rate is always more than the basic hour, because if someone said, can you work 2 hours extra today, so I'm not going to charge the same amount. I'll charge higher than my normal payment. For example, if my normal rate is £10 per hour, normally the overtime rate is always times and half. So that is kind of not double but time and half. So I'll multiply 10 times and half, and that will give me £15 per hour. So it is a normal rate. In the exam, most likely you're going to see they will tell you the overtime rate is time and half. Time and half means 1.5, so you multiply with the 1.5, and that will give you how much is the rate for time and half. So let's have a look. One thing I want all of you to remember, that is overtime and the overtime premium is a different thing. So overtime and the overtime premium is not the same thing. Overtime means how many hours you have work extra, and the overtime premium means how much you get extra because of you working some extra hours. For example, let's say if I said I supposed to work 8 hours and every hour is £10, my basic rate, so £80 I'm supposed to getting from here. So if I work 10 hours, so 10 times 10, so I'm getting £100 that day. Now this is the normal rate, and because of 2 hours I'm working extra, I'll get some extra money, and that is called overtime premium. So if it is times and half, so that will be 15. So 15 per hour will be for the overtime rate for the 2 hours. Now the question is 15 per hour. Inside of the 15 per hour, I have a 10 for the basic and 5 premium. Premium means extra, more than the basic. Anything exceed than the basic. So I'm getting £5 extra for the premium. So I said, okay. So I will say £5 here. So I have a £10 times 10 is my basic, and for the 2 hours I'll get 5, so that will be another 10. So I'll get 110. So out of 110, 100 will be for the basic, and for the overtime premium will be 10. Remember, overtime premium, not the overtime. Overtime means 2 hours. So 2 hours times 15, so 30 will be my overtime payment. 30 will be my overtime payment, but the overtime premium will be only 10. Overtime premium means the extra, because inside of the 15, 10 is the basic, 5 is the premium. So be careful with this. Okay, let's read this example. They said Mr. Trent is a contract worker for Lime Limited. He charged the company £4 per hour for his services. He is paid overtime at time and half. So overtime is time and half, that means 1.5. We have to multiply the basic rate, that is £4, with 1.5. He works a standard 35 hours. So normally he worked 35 hours a week, but last week he worked 40 hours. So 5 hours he worked more, isn't it? So 5 hours is the overtime. Okay, let's have a look. What is the requirement here? The requirement, they said how much he should get. So let's have a look. Normal time, normally he should work 35 hours. So I would say 35 hours he should work. So 35 hours, and the rate is £4 per hour. And after that, the overtime, I can see 5 hours because last week he worked 40 hours. So 5 hours. And the overtime rate, they said times and half. So 4 times 1.5. And that will tell me how much is the times and half. So let's do that. 4 times 1.5 should be 6. So 6 I have overtime rate. Remember, they said overtime, not overtime premium. Very careful with that. If they said overtime premium, I will calculate all the 40 hours here and only the premium I bring here. But they said overtime, so I'm taking the whole 5 hours. So 5 times 6. So we have 5 times 6. So my overtime will be 30. And my basic 35 hours times 4, and that gives me 140. So my total 170. So for working 40 hours last week, he will receive 170 pounds. Let's move to the next one. The next one we have here, they said normal time and the overtime too. Delimited pay, a time rate 8 per hour for 40 hours a week. Any employee working in excess of 40 hours per week is paid an overtime rate £12 per hour. So overtime is £12 per hour. That's fine. So working hour for Y Starling and T Bindon. So he worked 42 hours and he worked 46 hours. The basic one is 40 hours. So definitely I have to calculate the basic. That is £8 per hour. So I said out of 42. So out of 42 hours, 40 hours is for the basic and 2 hours for the overtime. So for the 40 hours he will get £8 per hour, and for the 2 hours he'll get £12 per hour. And for the Bindon we have 46 hours. Out of 46, 40 for the basic, 40 times 8 and is 12. That's it. So let's do that. 40 times 8. So 40 times 8, that gives us 320. So 320, that is basic. For him the basic will be same, 320. And overtime, that will be 12 times 2, that will be 24. So 24 for him. And for him 12 times 4 should be 48. So 48. Now we can add these two to get the total for each. So 48 plus 320, that gives me 368. And for him it will be 340. So 320 plus 24, that gives me 344. That's it, because it's overtime. Remember, not overtime premium. Alright, let's move to the next one. Then we have a net pay calculation. Net pay calculation means from the gross pay. So if I have a gross pay means like before the deduction. Deduction means, for example, tax, for example, national insurance contribution, for example, pension. So before any deduction, how much I earn, this is called gross pay. And after deducting everything what I receive on my bank account, this is called net pay. So from my gross pay, if I take away the tax, national insurance, pension, everything, whatever actually come to my bank account, it is called net pay. So let's have a look. They said Mr. River also worked for Lime Limited. He is paid £6 per hour and works standard 40 hours a week. He is paid overtime times and half. Times and half means 1.5. Each week, PAYE, that is pay as you earn, this is the tax, 25%, and the employee insurance contribution is 10%. Both we have to pay from the gross amount. Remember that. Before he get paid. In the week 31st of March 2001, Mr. River worked 42 hours. 42 hours he works. So let's have a look. Now this time they said basic pay and we have overtime premium. Remember that. It's a very, very tricky thing. Overtime and overtime premium is not the same thing. I explained before as well. Overtime premium means only the additional one, the extra one. So let's have a look. The basic pay, so hour is 42 hours he worked. So I'm going to say 42 hours, and rate per hour is 6. So 42 times 6, that is 252. 252. Now the premium, how many hours he work extra? So 40 supposed to work and he worked 42, so 2 hours he work extra. Now for the 2 hour, how much he will get extra? That's the question. Normally the rate is £6, so £6 times 1.5, so that is £9 per hour for the overtime. So he's getting extra, the difference, so he's getting £3 extra per hour. Because of the overtime, he getting £3 extra. Normal rate is 6, and for the overtime he's getting 9, so he getting £3 extra per hour because of the overtime. So I will say how many hours he work overtime? 2 hours. 42 minus 42 hours. So for the 2 hours he will get how much rate per hour? So that will be get 3. So he will get £3 per hour extra premium, so it will be 6. So if I added these two, that will give my gross. So let's do that. 252 plus 6, that is 258. 258. And after that we have a PAYE, the tax. They say tax is 25%. Remember, you're going to charge the tax on the gross with the gross amount. So 258 times 25%, and that gives me 64.5. So tax I have to pay, so I will put the bracket, and the bracket means it's a minus. Then the national insurance contribution, they said 10%. 10% again on the gross. Remember that 10% again on the gross. So 258 times 10%, and that gives you 25.8. 25.8. And if I minus these two, so 258 minus 64.5 minus 25.8, and that gives me 167.7. So all of this money actually he going to receive on his bank account, and this is called net pay. So after all the deduction on the bank account, he going to receive this amount. Alright, let's move to the next one. The next one we have activity 4, that one for the piecework pay. Piecework pay, never count the hours. Piecework pay always relevant to the number of unit. So let's have a look at this question. A company pay its employee using a differential piecework scheme. The rate are follow. So if the unit per week and cost per unit. So if someone can make between 1 to 100 unit, they get £4 per unit. If someone make from 101 to 150, they will get £4.50 per unit. If someone can make 151 to 200, £5 per unit, and 201 plus 550 per unit. So requirement, an employee produce 163 unit. Okay, so you have to break it down. So out of 160 unit, the first 100, so I'm going to say the first 100 will be £4, so that will give you 400. Then the next 50, that will give you £4.50, so 50. So 50 times £4.5, and that gives me 225. 225. We have how many left from here? So we have 163. So from 163, 150, so 150 is gone, so 16 is left. For the 16, he will get £5 per unit. So 16 times 5 is 63, not 16, is 13, isn't it? So 13 times 5. So 13 times 5, that gives me 65. So total he will get 400 plus 225 plus 65. So we said 65 plus 225 plus 400, and this gives me 690. So we have to break it down. Depends on the question. It's not very difficult. It's quite simple question. Let's move to the next one. The next one we have activity 5. They said piecework pay 2. Identify the following statement about the piecework method as either true or false by putting a tick in the relevant column of the below table. Okay, we have a statement, we have a true or false. We need to say is it true or false. Employee pay will remain same if more units are produced. No, in the piecework system, if you make more, you will get more. It's not the time base. If it is time based, it is true, but if it is piecework system, if I can make more unit, I get more money. So if I cannot make more, I don't get more. So this is not true. Employee pay not remain same. So this is false. An employee is paid 40 pence per unit and earn 340 for the production of 850 unit. Okay, let's check. So 850 times 40 pence. So let's try that. 850 times 40 pence, that gives me 340. Yes, that's true. He will earn 340. So that's true. Then we have an employee who is paid 420 for a production of 700 unit, is paid 60 per unit. Okay, so let's check that. 700 times 60 pence. So 700 times 60 pence, that gives me 420, and this is also true. Then we have the last one. They said employee pay will decrease if less unit are produced. That's true. If the employee pay less unit, they will get less money. So employee pay will be decreased if less unit are produced, because it's a piecework system. On the piecework system, if you work more, if you can make more unit, you'll get more. If you can make a less unit, you'll get less. Doesn't matter how long you have spent it or how many hours you have spent it. So in the piecework system, they don't consider the time, duration of the time. Only they count the unit, how many unit you have produced. Alright, so we hope we have some understanding now for this time-based and the piecework system, and hopefully do some more practice on the next lesson. So thank you everyone for watching. So the next lesson we're going to start from the next activity.